She disappeared without a trace. No witnesses, no suspects. That was the official statement. But what it really meant was something far worse. It meant no answers. On April 17, 2016, Emily Carter woke up to the sound of her alarm at 7:10 a.m. She hit snooze once, then twice. Nothing about that morning stood out, and that later would become one of the most unsettling parts of her disappearance. Emily was 27 years old. She lived alone in a modest apartment building just outside the city. The neighborhood was quiet, predictable, safe. Or at least, that's what everyone believed. She showered, made coffee, checked her phone. No missed calls, no strange messages, no warnings. She left for work at 8:15 a.m., locking the door behind her like she always did. Security cameras in the parking lot captured her getting into her car. She adjusted the mirror, pulled out slowly, and drove away. It was the last time anyone would ever see her in daylight. Emily spent the day working on a freelance design project for a local business. Emails show she was focused, professional, calm. At 3:47 p.m., she sent a message to her best friend. Finally finishing this project tonight. Wine later this week? Nothing unusual. At 6:02 p.m., she left work. At 6:30 p.m., she stopped at a grocery store near her apartment. Receipts show she bought pasta, sauce, and a bottle of sparkling water. She wasn't planning to go anywhere. She was planning to come home. At 8:31 p.m., Emily sent one final message to her sister. Heading home now. Talk soon. That message would later be replayed, reread, and memorized by her family, because it was the last thing Emily Carter ever said.
Emily arrived at her apartment building at 8:42 p.m. Security footage shows her entering through the front door. She pauses briefly, adjusting the strap of her bag. She looks down at her phone, typing something quickly. Her posture is relaxed. There is no sign of fear. This detail matters. Investigators later said that people who know they are in danger often show subtle signs: hesitation, tension, awareness of surroundings. Emily showed none of that. She pressed the elevator button. The doors opened. She stepped inside. That was it. That was the last confirmed sighting of Emily Carter. She never appeared on the lobby camera again. She never appeared on the parking garage camera. She never appeared on the street cameras outside. At 8:47 p.m., Emily's phone lost signal. No outgoing calls, no messages, no location data. It didn't die gradually. It stopped. Police would later describe those 5 minutes, between 8:42 and 8:47, as a complete blind spot. Emily didn't vanish outside. She vanished inside her own building. And that made the case far more disturbing.
When Emily didn't show up for work the next morning, no one panicked. She worked freelance. Flexible hours weren't unusual. When she didn't answer her phone by noon, her sister grew concerned. By 6 p.m., concern turned into fear. Her sister drove to Emily's apartment. Emily's car was in the parking lot. Her apartment door was locked. Inside, everything looked normal. The groceries she had bought were still on the counter, unpacked. Her laptop was open on the desk. Her bed was neatly made. There was no sign of a struggle, no broken items, no blood. Emily's passport was still in a drawer. Her clothes were still in the closet. If she had left voluntarily, she left behind everything she would need. Police arrived that night and conducted a brief search. Their conclusion was fast. Too fast. They labeled Emily as a voluntary missing adult. That decision would shape the entire investigation, and it would cost them time they would never get back. Because Emily Carter hadn't run away. She hadn't planned to disappear. She had simply walked into a space where something went terribly wrong.
Emily Carter disappeared inside a building that was supposed to be secure. That detail bothered detectives more than anything else. The apartment complex had cameras. It had keycard access. It had lighting in every hallway. Yet somehow, a woman vanished without a single confirmed witness. Detectives returned to the building 2 days after Emily was reported missing. They spoke to every tenant on her floor. No one had heard screaming. No one had heard arguing. No one remembered seeing Emily after she stepped into the elevator. At first, this sounded like coincidence, but coincidence doesn't repeat itself this cleanly. The building manager insisted everything was working properly. All cameras were operational, he said. No outages reported. Maintenance logs supported his claim. But footage told a different story. There were small gaps, not full outages, just moments where cameras skipped a second or two. Normally, that wouldn't matter, but when someone disappears, seconds matter. Detectives mapped out the blind spots. There were 3 places in the building where cameras didn't fully overlap: the elevator interior, the short hallway between elevators and stairwell, a service corridor rarely used by residents. Emily had vanished in that triangle, a place where cameras existed but didn't fully see. One detective said it felt intentional. Another said it felt impossible. Both were right. 3 weeks into the investigation, police reviewed the elevator footage again. Not because they expected to find something new, but because they had nothing else. A junior technician noticed something the others had missed. At 8:44 p.m., the elevator camera froze. Not completely. The timestamp continued to run, but the image itself held still for 1.6 seconds. When it resumed, the elevator doors were closing. Emily was no longer visible. No one else was visible either. At first glance, it meant nothing. Elevator cameras glitch all the time. But when investigators compared it with footage from other nights, something strange emerged. The same glitch didn't happen randomly. It happened only on nights when maintenance staff accessed the building late, and only during a narrow time window, between 8:30 and 9 p.m. Emily disappeared at 8:42. That detail changed the tone of the investigation. Police stopped calling it a disappearance. They started calling it an event. Something happened in that elevator. Something unseen. As detectives widened the scope, they began interviewing staff, security guards, cleaners, maintenance workers. Most of them blended together, but one man appeared on multiple schedules: Ryan Blake, 32 years old, maintenance technician, worked across several buildings in the area. He had keys, he had access, and most importantly, he had reason to be everywhere without being noticed. Residents described him in similar ways: nice guy, helpful, quiet, the kind of person you don't remember. Ryan Blake had been working that evening. His keycard logs showed access to Emily's floor at 8:40 p.m., 2 minutes before she entered the building. When questioned, Ryan was cooperative, too cooperative. He said he had been fixing a lighting issue. He said he never saw Emily. He said he left before anything happened. Nothing he said could be disproven, but nothing he said explained why Emily vanished. And then, weeks later, a woman from another building came forward. She said a maintenance worker had offered to help her late at night, in the elevator. She declined, and nothing happened. Except now she remembered his face. It was Ryan Blake. For the first time, Emily Carter's disappearance had a human shape, and it was standing right in front of them. Once Ryan Blake became a person of interest, the investigation changed pace. Until that moment, police had been chasing absence. Now they were chasing time. Keycard data became the center of everything. Every employee access was logged automatically: date, time, floor. At first, the data looked ordinary. Maintenance staff accessed buildings constantly. That was their job. But when detectives isolated Ryan Blake's activity, patterns emerged. On the night Emily disappeared, Ryan's keycard was used at 8:40 p.m. on Emily's floor, 2 minutes before Emily entered the building. Ryan said he had been fixing a flickering hallway light, but no maintenance request existed for that floor. No resident had reported an issue, and no work order had been filed afterward. That alone wasn't proof. But then detectives expanded the timeline. They looked at Ryan's access logs for the 3 months before Emily vanished. What they found was disturbing. Ryan's keycard activity spiked during late evening hours, always between 8 and 10 p.m., always on floors where young women lived alone. Not every night, just often enough to blend in. Detectives cross-referenced the addresses. 2 other women in nearby buildings had reported feeling uncomfortable in elevators during that same period. One had called a friend immediately afterward, saying she felt watched. The reports hadn't gone anywhere at the time. They didn't seem criminal. Now they looked like warnings. Warnings no one had understood. As the case gained attention, pressure mounted. Emily's family spoke to the media. Her sister appeared on local news, holding back tears, begging for answers. "She didn't just disappear," she said. "Someone knows something." Police reviewed their early decisions. Labeling Emily as a voluntary missing adult had delayed the investigation by nearly 48 hours, critical time. By the time they treated the case as suspicious, any physical evidence was likely gone. Trash had been collected, hallways had been cleaned, elevators had been serviced. Every missed chance piled onto the next. Detectives questioned Ryan again. This time, they confronted him with the keycard timeline. He didn't deny being in the building. He adjusted his story, said he had forgotten to log the repair request, said it was a busy night. But his answers came too quickly, too rehearsed. When asked why his keycard activity focused on certain floors, Ryan paused, just long enough. "I go where I'm needed," he said. But records showed he went where he wasn't requested. The problem was evidence. There was still none tying Ryan directly to Emily after 8:42 p.m. No DNA, no witnesses, no body. The case hovered in a dangerous place. Everyone felt the truth nearby, but no one could reach it.
Police hoped pressure would crack Ryan. It didn't. Ryan Blake was careful. He lawyered up, stopped volunteering information. He knew exactly where the line was, and he never crossed it. Detectives tried another angle. They reviewed Ryan's digital footprint, phone records, search history, location data. Nothing incriminating. But something was missing. Ryan's phone showed no activity during the window of Emily's disappearance. No texts, no calls, no data. For nearly 40 minutes, his phone was silent. Then, at 9:23 p.m., it came back online. That gap mirrored the keycard activity almost perfectly. Still, silence wasn't proof. Months passed. The case stalled. Without a confession or physical evidence, prosecutors refused to file charges. Emily Carter's name slowly faded from headlines, but it never faded from her family. Every year, on April 17th, they held a vigil outside her building. They stood under the same lights, looked at the same doors, and waited. Because sometimes the most painful truth isn't what happened, it's knowing how close you were to stopping it.
Nearly a year after Emily Carter disappeared, something unexpected happened. A storage facility on the outskirts of the city was cleared after months of unpaid rent. Inside one of the units, workers found several discarded personal items: clothes, shoes, a broken phone charger. Most of it was unremarkable, until one item stopped them: a women's jacket, gray, medium size. Emily's sister recognized it immediately. Emily had worn it the night she vanished. Police rushed to the storage unit, but by then the damage was done. The unit had been cleaned, handled, contaminated. Forensics found nothing usable. No DNA, no fingerprints. Just confirmation that Emily hadn't simply disappeared. She had been moved, and someone had taken steps to erase her. Ryan Blake was questioned again. This time, police told him about the storage unit. He didn't react, not immediately, but something changed in his posture. He leaned back, crossed his arms. Silence stretched between him and the detectives. "I don't know anything about that," he finally said. And that was it. Ryan never confessed. He never slipped. He never admitted to anything that could put him behind bars. He understood the power of silence. In missing person cases, silence can be more effective than lies. No body means no murder charge. No direct evidence means no trial. Ryan Blake walked free, and he knew it.
Emily's family never stopped searching. They organized posters, held vigils, contacted psychics, filed petitions. Every few months, they received tips. Most went nowhere. Some were cruel hoaxes. Her mother kept Emily's room exactly the same. Her sister kept her phone number active, just in case, she said. Time didn't heal anything. It only stretched the pain thinner. Years passed. Emily would have been 30, then 35. Birthdays came and went, but answers never did.
5 years after Emily vanished, police quietly reclassified the case, from active investigation to inactive. Not closed, just paused. The official statement was careful. No sufficient evidence to proceed. No suspects officially named. No charges filed. Ryan Blake was never arrested, never tried, never convicted. Legally, he remained an innocent man. But legally doesn't always mean truthfully. There are questions that still haunt this case. Why did the elevator camera freeze at that exact moment? Why did Ryan's keycard activity spike on certain floors? Why did his phone go dark during the disappearance window? Why was Emily's jacket in a storage unit miles away? None of these answers exist on paper. They exist only in patterns. And patterns don't always hold up in court. But they tell stories. Quiet ones. Emily Carter didn't vanish into thin air. She vanished into a system that requires certainty, and certainty was never found. Sometimes the truth doesn't come with evidence. Sometimes it comes with absence. And silence can protect the guilty just as easily as it buries the truth.
Emily Carter's case is still open. No witnesses came forward. No suspects were charged. No justice was delivered. But someone knows what happened. And they carry that knowledge every day. Because disappearing without a trace doesn't mean disappearing without a reason. It means the truth was never loud enough to be heard.